Hi, 10th literature class. So today I'm going to be kind of talking to you guys about the two scenes that you read and annotated yesterday. And also you guys are going to be answering some constructed response questions. Now, because constructed response questions take a little bit of time and effort, I'm going to make this assignment due tomorrow. So essentially you won't have anything due today, but you need to complete all these three questions and turn it in tomorrow. So for each question, you need to clearly answer the question or multiple questions if there's two questions. Provide two specific quotes from the original text, okay? And then explain what those quotes prove about your argument. So make sure you're fine if you want to read the modern translation, but make sure that you are actually quoting from the original text. So these are the questions that you're going to be answering. Cassius is determined to kill Caesar, but he needs Brutus in on the conspiracy. So I want you to sort of reread that first scene, the first 3 pages, and then answer, why do you think Cassius tells Brutus these stories about Caesar? What is he trying to do? What is he trying to accomplish? You're also going to read or reread Caesar's conversation with Antony, and answer what Caesar thinks of Cassius and why, and what this conversation reveals about Caesar. And then the last thing that you're doing is, it's really almost a based on your personal definition of leadership, you're just explaining who you think has the most leadership potential so far in Act 1. Is it Cassius, Brutus, or Caesar? And again, you don't have a ton of information about each character, but you do have sort of initial instinct as to maybe who's displaying the best leadership qualities and why. So for this question, you don't have to provide text evidence, but make sure you give two specific reasons and explain your answers. So that's what you're going to be working on, like I said, the next today and tomorrow. In addition, I'm including a YouTube video which kind of summarizes Act 1, Scene 2, which is where these excerpts are from. So if you need a little bit of extra help understanding the text and what's going on in the text, you can look at that YouTube video, and I think it'll help. It kind of gives a good summary of what happened. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of talk you guys through the text a little bit. So the first scene, you have a conversation essentially between Cassius and Brutus. Now, Cassius starts out by saying, I know that virtue to be in you, Brutus, as well as I do know your outward favor. He's essentially complimenting Brutus here. He's building him up. And I want you guys to think about, why would Cassius be doing that? What is his purpose in sort of flattering Brutus and trying to build him up? Also, he tells some stories about Caesar. He doesn't paint Caesar in the best light in these stories, as you guys probably realized as you were reading it. Again, when you're quoting, you need to be quoting from this or the original text, so you can use the modern version to kind of figure out what's going on, but make sure you're quoting from the original text. So he tells some stories about Caesar, and I want you to be thinking about, how do these stories make Caesar look? And why would Cassius essentially be trying to make Caesar look this way? Like, what is he trying to convince Brutus of? So kind of be thinking about that as you're answering those questions. So he tells this story about Caesar. He compares basically where Caesar needed help. This is the modern version where it kind of explains that Caesar reached out for help to Cassius so that he wouldn't, sink. He wouldn't basically drown and die. And then, he also tells a story about when Caesar has this fever, when he gets sick, and kind of talks about that. He does talk about his cowardly lips. So he's, again, painting Caesar in a very particular light. And I want you guys to be thinking about why Cassius is trying to make Caesar look this way. Also, he says here, there was a time when he was sick, and Caesar is saying, basically, give me something to drink, as a sick girl. So, I mean, Cassius literally calls Caesar like he was acting like a little girl, okay? So again, these aren't painting Caesar in the best light, but be thinking about why that would be the case. What is Cassius trying to prove through this conversation? Brutus says, another general shout, I do believe that these applauses are for some new honors that are heaped on Caesar. So as Brutus and Cassius are having this conversation back and forth, essentially the common people are outside celebrating Caesar and his sort of triumphant victory as he came back from war. And so Brutus and Cassius are sort of, they're trying to think through basically the power struggle, right? Like they don't know necessarily who's going to be the next leader, but they do know of Caesar's triumphs in battle. They do know that a lot of people do like him, obviously, and so again, they're kind of thinking about the future of Rome, who's going to be the leader, and who they essentially want to lead them. Um, and so again, he compares Cassius compares Brutus and Caesar, asking what should be in that Caesar. Why should that name be sounded more than yours, or why should that? What's so special about the name Caesar? So again, he's comparing their names there. And then Brutus essentially says, I appreciate what you have said. So, what you have said, I will consider what you have to say. And then basically, we will meet up again to talk about this. So, Brutus is, I mean, he's maybe not fully convinced of what Cassius is trying to convince him of, but he does say that I will consider what you have to say. I will think about it. And then we'll meet up again and talk about kind of the future and what we need to do going forward. And Cassius basically says, I'm glad that my words have gotten through to you. And yes, we will meet up again and discuss these things. Um, in the next scene, and this is the scene, this is just a very short scene, an excerpt from a scene between Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. And remember, these are kind of the two opposing sides, right? Like you've got Julius Caesar, and then Mark Antony's kind of like his right-hand man, and then you've got Cassius and Brutus on the other side. Now, we know from the life of Julius Caesar text, we know that Brutus is Julius Caesar's friend, right? Like they know Brutus is kind of maybe on both sides a little bit, and he's not fully convinced one way or the other. But Cassius is definitely on the opposing side. So with Julius Caesar, he says, "Let me have men about me that are fat, sleek-headed men, and such as asleep nights. Young Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous." So a lot of students, when they read that, they misread that to say he wants to have fat friends. Okay, and that's simply not the point that Julius Caesar is making. He says that Cassius has a lean and hungry look. He thinks too much. Such men are dangerous. So he knows that Cassius is sort of a danger to him, okay, because he realizes that Cassius isn't content with his sort of, station in life. It's almost like saying that he's a little bit power hungry, right? Like he knows that Cassius isn't thinks a lot. He's a plotter. He strategizes, and so again, Caesar knows this danger that Cassius poses to his rise to power, because Julius Caesar is sort of thinking, hey, I might become the next king, right? And so who's going to kind of stand in my way of making that happen? And so Mark Antony, of course, kind of brushes him off, right? He says, hey, Cassius is a good guy. He's not dangerous. Don't worry about it. And then Caesar, in this response, kind of talks about what kind of man Cassius is, how he acts, what he's focused on. And remember, when it says stuff like he loves no plays and he hears no music, think about how, in our society, right, that might be like saying he doesn't like to watch a lot of TV. He doesn't like to listen to music. Basically, like he doesn't have all these distractions in his life, right, that Cassius doesn't, that he's singularly focused on one thing. And he knows, Caesar kind of knows that he is a threat to him. You've got this alliteration here with the repetition of the S sound. Seldom he smiles, and smiles in such a sort. So he doesn't really smile. When he does smile, it's a little bit, like suspicious, right? And so he's kind of giving his reasons why he thinks that Cassius is going to pose this threat to him and to his rise to power. So in your constructed response, you'll kind of be talking about what Caesar thinks about Cassius and why, using some specific text evidence from the original text. And guys, when you are citing, do your best to tell me about what line number you're getting it from. You might not have the exact line number, and that's okay. Like, I think the ones up here, you do have the line numbers kind of written out for you, like 170 there. Over here, you don't have quite as many, but you can count. It's only 192 to 214, so you can count the line numbers, get it close. But make sure that when you're citing that, again, you're citing from the original text, the text on the left, not the right. Okay, so that is important. So let me kind of go back to your assignment for today, or really your assignment for today and tomorrow. So you're answering questions 1 and 2 using some specific text evidence. So make sure, again, for each question, here are the directions. You clearly answer the question, okay? You're going to provide 2 specific quotes from the original text, and then you'll explain what those quotes prove about your argument. And again, make sure you're explaining what each quote proves about your argument. So in other words, you're going to answer the question, you're going to cite evidence, give the line number from the original text from where you got it from, explain what that evidence shows about this question and about these questions, okay? And then you'll cite one more time from the original text and then explain what that shows about your argument. So each one of these is going to be at least 5 sentences long, really maybe closer to 7 sentences by the time that you get done. And then this last one is going to be a personal opinion. Okay, so you guys can write this out if you want on a sheet of notebook paper. You can also type it out if you would like. Either one is fine. Make sure that you're not going too long. So I have a limit of 150 words each. Don't be writing too much, but just, clearly answer the question, provide some specific evidence to back you up, and then explain what each piece of evidence shows about your argument. Okay. So again, you're going to be working on today and tomorrow, so it is going to be worth 100 points because it is a little bit of a lengthier assignment. It's going to take you a little bit more time. If you have any questions, or if you want to schedule a meeting during class time to talk about, what you could put or how to structure this assignment, please make sure you reach out to me. I would be happy to meet with you guys one-on-one. Or in a small group, and kind of talk you through what I see in the text, what you see in the text, and kind of figure out the nuances there. So let me know if you have any questions. Make sure that you guys are reaching out to me before 3:30, because remember, I'm here from 7:30 to 3:30. So after 3:30, I really don't get those emails and questions until the next day. So please make sure that you guys are reaching out to me soon with your questions. Let me know how I can help you, or if anything is confusing, I'd be happy to sit down with you and talk with you one-on-one about it, and talk you through this. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week. I have missed seeing you guys. I've missed having you in the classroom, so I'm very much looking forward to our face-to-face instruction. We will next week get started reading Act 2 together in class, which I'm really excited about. So we'll see. A lot of important and exciting stuff happens in Act 2, and then also I'll kind of summarize Act 1 for you, the scenes that we weren't able to read together, and I'll kind of explain what happened with the power struggle. And you guys, I think, will really enjoy reading through Act 2 together next week. So I will see you guys later. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves and have a great weekend.